From our State House studio in Montgomery, I'm Todd Stacy. Welcome to Capitol Journal. Today was the 13th day of the Alabama Legislature's 2025 regular session, and the last one before the first of two planned spring break weeks. Today also marked 1 year since the enactment of a law aimed to protect in vitro fertilization treatments. It came in the wake of an Alabama Supreme Court ruling that interpreted Alabama's Constitution to say that frozen embryos are considered children under state law. That ruling forced IVF providers to halt all treatments for fear of liability. That prompted state lawmakers to pass a law offering immunity to IVF providers and prospective parents. But advocates said that work may not be done.
The law we passed was a short-term solution, which has already been challenged in court. We anticipate more legal challenges to come. This is why we need a constitutional amendment that would protect the right to IVF in our state. We know this is a longer-term battle, and that work starts today. We also know there has been lots of discussion about regulating IVF, which would be harmful to our families. Burdensome regulations would increase cost and risk and would push families that could afford it to seek IVF services in other states. We are here today to push back against those conversations. But while we know we still have lots to do, it's important on this 1 year anniversary to pause and to celebrate and to say thank you.
I think IVF is pro-life as it gets. It creates families across our state, and you know what's happened in just the past year with over 400 pregnancies and hundreds of children being born is a blessing. And I don't think there's any question about it. God has created IVF for families that needed it. So we certainly appreciate everybody's efforts. It takes everybody to make it happen. It was a group effort.
I'm here today as a mother because of fertility treatment. My son is here today because of the care and the expertise of my doctors and the access that I had to treatment in Alabama. Recently, my husband and I went through another transfer, one that was only possible because of the immunity bill that was passed. And while that transfer ended in heartbreak, we still have hope. We have 4 embryos remaining, each one representing a chance to continue growing our family. Without the immunity bill, my clinic would still be unable to perform these vital services, and for that I am grateful.
On to legislative action. Today, the House gave final passage to a bill that would reform the Alabama Department of Veterans Affairs by elevating the VA commissioner to a cabinet-level position and making the State Board of Veterans Affairs an advisory body rather than administrative. Senate Bill 67 from Senator Andrew Jones was on the House floor today, being carried by State Representative Ed Oliver. There has been pushback against the proposal, most notably from veterans groups in South Alabama and from the former Commissioner of Veterans Affairs, Kent Davis, who was dismissed after a messy interagency dust-up last year that led the governor and others to pursue this reform. In the end, Oliver said that the intent is to have the department function better and serve veterans.
Relating to Veterans Affairs, as last amended by Act 2024-442 of the 2024 regular session, to require the governor rather than the State Board of Veterans Affairs to appoint the Commissioner of the State Department of Veterans Affairs to serve at the governor's pleasure, to provide that the board serves in an oversight capacity, and to transfer certain duties from the board to the State Department of Veterans Affairs.
So is this bill about the services or the person who is authorized at the top to ensure that the services are delivered?
And you could say it from the person at the top that says that services are delivered. We have a system of government where we have an executive branch, of course, and we have a legislative branch, and we both share a role in making sure that these things occur like they're supposed to.
I'm so glad that you just said that, and let me tell you something. I've been preaching this back in my neighborhood. I believe in a bifurcated system of government. I believe in an executive branch, a legislative branch, and judicial system branch of government.
The House also passed legislation offering greater legal protections to police officers. House Bill 202 from State Representative Rex Reynolds would establish higher legal standards to bring criminal charges or lawsuits against police officers. Supporters say it's needed to help recruit and retain police officers because many fear joining the force only to get involved in a lawsuit or a prosecution. It's part of a broader public safety agenda that, up until now, has received bipartisan support. But Democrats pushed back strongly on this proposal, arguing that it goes too far and could enable bad behavior from police. The debate went on for more than 3 hours.
Today, our most recent academy list in the city of Huntsville, they had less than 75 qualified applicants and later filled less than 15 seats in that academy. That's a huge impact on law enforcement.
And so
we're seeing that in Birmingham, we're seeing it in Montgomery, we're seeing it in Mobile, and this bill is about instilling a confidence back into the law enforcement profession so that when they have that split-second decision, as I described earlier, that we've got their back. And we're not asking.
But do we want? But when you say that, well, I'll let you finish and then go ahead.
And we're not. It clearly describes that an officer is still liable if he operates outside the scope of his duties. If he operated recklessly, it's very clear language. And on the criminal side, we're simply saying, hey, let's pause and let a judge of jurisdiction decide, did this officer operate within the scope of his duties, or was he reckless and outside of that? If he's ruled that he was, that criminal proceeding continues to go. And remember, this hearing happens after an officer could be indicted. We're just simply pausing. No different than any attorney in here knows that you could go and get a separate hearing in a criminal proceeding for stay of evidence, a recommendation to squash evidence, a recommendation to dismiss the case. Any civilian in Alabama has that right. Don't we afford that to our police officers as well?
That bill passed along party lines and now goes to the Senate. The House also passed legislation banning so-called Glock switches. Machine gun conversion devices are already illegal under federal law, but Alabama officials say a state ban is needed to allow local and state law enforcement to crack down on the dangerous weapons.
A normal pistol with a Glock switch turns it into a very dangerous, uncontrollable machine gun, and they've been used in mass shootings throughout our state. They've taken precious lives. So by passing this ban, we're hoping to save some lives moving forward and have safer communities for everyone.
That bill passed 77 to 23. It must now go back to the Senate because of alterations made in the House. On to the Senate, where a bill aimed at speeding up trials for violent crime cases made it one step closer to becoming law. Senate Bill 178, sponsored by State Senator Will Barfoot, passed with bipartisan support and is now headed to the House. Known as the Speedy Trial Act, the bill would allow retired or visiting judges to step in and help clear backlogs in the court system, ensuring cases are heard in a more timely manner. Attorney General Steve Marshall says it's another tool to address violent crime across the state.
Yeah, well, we've heard it. You've seen multiple efforts to address violent crime in our state. The MAX program here in Montgomery that's gone to find offenders that need to be taken off the street. This is additional layer to the work that we're trying to do. And so very pleased with the response of communities and law enforcement, victims advocates across the state. This bill allows us to be able to take advantage of those retired judges that are in service, that we are able to identify through the work of the prosecutors or our office cases that need to be timely heard. And I think this is, again, a win-win for the state of Alabama.
The rights of the defendants, who in some cases have been charged with something and for years have been pending trial. You certainly have, victims in cases that they need closure and they need final results of that. And I think both of those together are important pieces of the puzzle. Additionally, from an evidentiary standpoint, you've got witnesses whose memory fades over time. And in some cases, whenever you have murder cases or other violent offenses, and you've got a lapse of time of 4 and 5 and 6 years, that's just really untenable. We need to have some resolution on those cases.
As lawmakers prepare for their first break of the legislative session, Senate President Pro Tem Garland Gudger is reflecting on what senators have accomplished so far. Several key bills have advanced through the Senate, tackling issues ranging from public safety to veterans affairs. And there have been some hiccups along the way, including last week when a Democratic filibuster killed an entire day. For now, though, he says he's pleased with the progress made so far in the upper chamber.
Proud of what we've done. Everything has been smooth running so far. We've got a lot of bills out on both sides of the aisle, but it's what's best for the state of Alabama. So we're proud of where we are and the accomplishments that we've achieved so far. Everyone, especially with the softball game this week, has kind of come together, and that kind of relieves a little bit of pressure and stress as we kind of fight back and forth. And so by doing that, we just wanted to make sure we had a good, solid week and get a lot of non-controversial bills out of the way, and we achieved that goal of doing that this week. You know, we have constituent work week next week, so we're going to be in our districts, making sure we go through our own districts and taking care of the constituents that we have there. But when we get back, the main focus is going to be sunset bills. We have 5 days to get those out of the basket and run through committee, then back onto the floor to vote on. So there's 25 of those, and we have to focus on those to get those out.
While heated debates are common on the floors of the House and Senate, last night lawmakers blew off some steam on the playing field at the annual legislative softball game. The 4th annual Battle of Goat Hill charity softball game took place at Riverwalk Stadium, where the House and Senate squared off for bragging rights. House members entered the game riding high after securing their first ever win last year, but that momentum was short-lived. The Senate, bolstered by some high-profile ringers from Braves pitcher Tim Hudson and former Alabama quarterback Brody Croyle, dominated from the start and never looked back. Final score, Senate 14, the House 4. Beyond the friendly competition, the event raised more than $76,000 for the Big Oak Ranch and the Tallapoosa's Girls Ranch. Senator Jabbo Wagoner took home MVP honors, not bad at the age of 88. And today, on the Senate floor, House members had to make the dreaded walk of shame, returning the Battle of Goat Hill trophy to the upper chamber.
I stand here as a man who wins or losses, I'll stand here with a smile on my face. It was a good game last night, so congratulations on y'all's victory. I'm still looking over the rules for possibly a debate on the floor on that.
Trying to tell y'all in the past that this belongs to us. It's never was yours. You're just bringing it back home. So we thank you for bringing back what is ours. It should never have gone, and it would never leave again.
You see my smile a little bit bigger when you said that anyway, so anytime that we win, you know, it shows our dominance up here in the Senate, so we're proud of that. Anytime we can do athletic and on the floor and win, obviously everybody wants to be around the winners and the trophy that's right out there on the floor, so we're proud of that, and we're proud of the effort that everyone gave last night on the field, so thank you for that.
We'll be right back with tonight's guest.
You can watch past episodes of Capital Journal online at video.aptv.org. Capital Journal episodes are also available on APTV's free mobile app. You can also connect with Capital Journal and link to past episodes on Capital Journal's Facebook page. And you can listen to past episodes of Capital Journal when you're driving or on the go with Capital Journal podcasts.
Welcome back to Capital Journal. Joining me next is State Representative Marilyn Lands from Huntsville. Representative, thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely. So glad to be here.
Interesting day on the House floor. I haven't seen a debate like that in several years.
Very interesting. That's my first time to see something like that. But I must say, being here from the beginning of the session this time has really given me a better perspective on how the whole process works.
Yeah, there's definitely a flow to it. And I guess you could see it coming, a bill that was controversial from the beginning. Anything having to do with police immunity, going to be controversial. But yeah, the real deal in the House debate. Well, I wanted to ask you about a piece of legislation that you have having to do with Medicaid coverage for pregnant women and specifically trying to get that coverage started earlier in their pregnancies. Talk about what your bill does.
So HB 89, the Alabama Maternal Health Care Act, would provide presumptive eligibility to Medicaid for pregnant women. And so basically, the minute a woman thinks she's pregnant, she can call a doctor and get an appointment and get in without waiting for her coverage to be absolutely effective. Now, we're going to presume in good faith that if she says she meets the income requirements, that she does, and that if she's taken a pregnancy test, that she is pregnant and she can get right on in. 11% of our women receive no prenatal care in this state. And the vast majority don't get in until the second trimester, but sometimes even the third trimester. So this, I think, will really expedite getting women and babies in, getting that wonderful prenatal care right from the start, the best start, with vitamins and information on nutrition and exercise, and then also identifying pre-existing conditions that the mom may have, high blood pressure, diabetes, preeclampsia, so that those could be identified and treated early on and prevent worse outcomes.
Mm-hmm. So important for the health of the baby, also to prevent maternal mortality, right? Because that's been a problem in Alabama.
Maternal and infant mortality, and also it will save money. I mean, reducing stays in the NICU, number of days in the NICU. You know, if these things aren't identified earlier, then the hospital stays are longer. So being able to manage things right from the outset as early as we can will mean we will have much better outcomes. We'll be saving lives with this bill.
You've gotten some bipartisan support. So
absolutely.
Talk about that, because that doesn't happen to every bill.
No, it doesn't. But this one, I introduced it last year right at the end of the session. We had bipartisan support then, and then I knew I was going to reintroduce it this time. Many of the women have come along. The Senate companion bill also has bipartisan support. So both bills crossed over committees this week. So both have been approved and are heading to the respective chambers, and hopefully will be signed into law very soon.
So yeah, I guess when y'all come back after spring break, it will be at least be in position to be on the Senate floor. So it's in line, and I guess you'd say it's a pretty good chance of passing.
Absolutely, we feel very hopeful.
So that's a big policy, and I think it's one that most people can agree with. But what I'm thinking is, all right, let's say you pass this into law. There will obviously be news coverage about all that. But there might be people out there that have no idea that that's even available. So how will y'all get the word out about, hey, there is, you know, if you do meet these eligibility requirements, if you do become pregnant, there is a way to get that health care.
Absolutely. And another thing that I have found in working this issue is that so many women don't even realize that they're eligible for pregnancy Medicaid because they know they don't meet the requirements for Medicaid, and they're just assuming, and I'm sure I probably would too, they don't realize that the eligibility requirements for pregnancy Medicaid are much different.
Okay.
So trying to get the word out, and there are many programs in the state, many great support systems for pregnant women and for moms and babies once they arrive. And I want us to do a public information campaign that, you know, says Alabama cares. We have a heart for our moms and babies, and helps emphasize the importance of prenatal care and self-care, and then connects them to those resources that are available, including letting them know that they may well be eligible for pregnancy Medicaid, but also the wonderful wraparound supports with our ACHNs and all the other services that are available for a mom during her pregnancy and then for a year afterward.
Well, maybe we can help with that a little bit.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Well, on the subject of Medicaid, you know, the idea of Medicaid expansion has been out there for a long time. I know it's a tenet of the Democratic caucus's platform. Some resistance from Republicans, but also you've seen some openness from some of them. But things have changed at the federal level a little bit, with cuts to Medicaid possibly a part of what the budget Republicans are talking about. Where are we on that? Where's the likelihood? You know, does what happened in Washington kind of change things in terms of the momentum that was kind of building for expansion?
I think it definitely has the potential to change things. I know that I hear overwhelmingly from my constituents that they really want us to expand Medicaid down here. I got several emails just this morning on that topic. So I think it's something that's very much on people's minds. They know in the long run that it could save us money. As you say, things are really in flux right now, so don't know, but Medicaid expansion is something I will continue to push for.
Another one of your initiatives is mental health and education. You've talked a lot about that. No specific legislation, but talk about that issue in general of students in our schools having access to, you know, counseling, mental health care, maybe that they don't even know that they need.
Exactly, and my background is mental health. I had some business and industry background prior to going back to school, but my most recent background has been community mental health. And I just can't tell you how alarmed I am about where our kids are at today with the rates of suicide and the rates of substance abuse and bullying. And the trend is horrific. It's just getting worse and worse. So we have got to do something to stop that. The fact that we have mental health counselors throughout the school systems in Alabama is a wonderful thing, but that's only when a kid decides they want counseling and when their parents consent. And it's great to have that, but I want every child to be able to understand about some basic mental health principles and how to manage their emotions. And I think we need to be on the preventive edge of things. We need to start with kids when they're young and teach them some skills to handle their emotions. It's not wrong to be angry. The world needs angry people. They're the ones who change the world, right? But it's what you do with that anger. And I think when we teach all the children at a young age, then they norm it for each other and they're helping each other out. And they're saying, hey, you know, Scott, let's take a minute here. Let's chill down. Let's take a breath. And they're helping each other. And then maybe we prevent some of these problems from ever getting to that level.
So it's not just a high school thing. You're saying, like,
no,
let's start early.
Let's start early.
Okay.
Yes, let's start really early.
What's the conversation? Because I hear the same thing from the Department of Mental Health. I hear the same thing from the Department of Education. Are there conversations ongoing about how we can, you know, kind of step this up?
There are a lot of conversations going on, but I think this, and what I hope to do at this point is really just get us started with a task force to begin looking more deeply into this issue and looking at what other states are doing, what best practices are, what's working, you know, seeing the effectiveness of programs that have been tried in other parts of the country, and then seeing what might work best for us here in Alabama.
Well, we might get a cell phone ban in schools, so that's a start. I think that bill's kind of moving.
That bill is moving, and of course cell phones are a large part of the problem. And as adults, and especially as parents, we need to model good behavior on that. But it's definitely a distraction, and the amount of time that kids are on their phones is extraordinary. I don't know if you've read the book, The Anxious Generation.
I've started it. Yeah, absolutely. Matter of fact, Commissioner Boswell gave it to me.
Okay, yay. And he makes the point early on in the book that, you know, what if travel to Mars was available? And hey, kids can get a free trip. And we don't know, though, about the effects of gravity and all that, you know, on their development. So would you send your kid on a free trip to Mars? No.
So many yeah, right.
No, you wouldn't. But that's what we've done with these phones. We've given our kids a trip to Mars when we don't know what the outcome might be.
Yeah, certainly. So I'm watching that bill, and it's interesting because the debate, you know, I think most educators are for it. A lot of policymakers are for it. It's really some of the parents that are you know, don't want to give that communication up. But I think it's going to pass. So that'll be an interesting change. And I was you know, talking with the Pike Road principal the other day. They've implemented it this year, and they've seen a dramatic difference just already from attention in the classroom and behavior, and kids walking down the hall. She said they're looking up. They're not staring at their phones, looking down the hallway. So
and the grades are coming up too.
Probably so.
Yeah.
I think you can count on that. While I have you, you represent Huntsville, and I know that you're not in Congress. What we do down here doesn't necessarily affect what's going on in Washington, but there are concerns up there about this DOGE operation and what federal cuts might be coming. Huntsville's such a federal town with all the defense, aerospace, and you know, everything. Talk about that. What's the talk in the town? I know nothing's really official yet, but are there concerns about what's going on and what might happen in terms of cuts coming down the federal government?
Absolutely. I mean, I would say it is the talk of the town right now where I live. And it's really mixed because there are many potentials that look good, like Space Command.
Right.
More FBI jobs.
Sure.
So there are a number of things that really are looming on the horizon that could affect us very well. But then on the other hand, we don't know what these cuts are going to look like and how they're going to shape out. So what I'm hearing from people in local government and at some of these companies is that they're just really uncertain at the moment.
Right. A lot of concern at NASA, Space Launch System that's made so much progress, but a lot of uncertainty there. But you're right, it's a mixed bag. It's a lot of FBI jobs coming. Of course, that was always kind of in the pipeline, but it's starting to move. Space Command could be a big deal. We're waiting on that announcement. So I guess, yeah, the federal government giveth and the federal government taketh away.
We're holding our breath.
Well, look, we're out of time. Thanks so much for coming on the show. We're going to be following
My
your
pleasure.
bill and following these conversations about mental health.
Thank you so much.
We'll be right back.
You can watch past episodes of Capitol Journal online anytime at Alabama Public Television's website, aptv.org. Click on the Online Video tab on the main page. You can also connect with Capitol Journal and link to past episodes on Capitol Journal's Facebook page.
Russell Cave is located in northeast Alabama in Jackson County. It is a significant archaeological site with deep deposits that are a result of frequent use by Native Americans for thousands of years and offer a glimpse of life ways from the archaic to the historic period. Russell Cave was named a national monument in 1961. Today, the cave is part of the National Park System.
That's our show for tonight. Thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow night for our Week in Review episode. That's 7:30 here on Alabama Public Television. For our Capitol Journal team, I'm Todd Stacy. Thanks for watching.